Hey everyone, we're going to take a look at exercise 16, which is still about volumes of pyramids. And we're talking about a diamond in this exercise. They say we have a diamond that consists of two pyramids, one on top and one on bottom. The top pyramid has a height of 6 millimeters and the bottom one has one of 8 millimeters. The base, that's here in the middle right, of the pyramids is a regular octagon with 4 millimeter edges. So an octagon means that it has 8 vertices, right? And if it's regular, that means all the sides have the same dimensions. They are 4 millimeters. See this picture. Show using the Pythagorean theorem that x, this dimension here, must be 2 square root 2. Okay. They say Pythagorean theorem. I see a right angle triangle here, so let's just get started. The Pythagorean theorem states one adjacent edge squared, x squared, plus the other adjacent edge squared, x squared, must be the hypotenuse squared, so another plus, equals 4 squared. X squared plus x squared is 2x squared equals 16. Now divide left and right by 2 to get rid of that what's in front of the x squared. Right, that's a tip that I always gave you if you're in this state. Divide what's in front of x squared. Gives me x squared is 8. And this is of x squared is c, right? Remember previous chapter? We have to solve for x. C is bigger than 0, so we have two solutions. We either have x is the square root of that number, or x is minus the square root of that number. And now you think, well, square root 8 is not 2 square root 2, but remember that we could factorize this, right, like this. Chapter 5. And now we can say square root 4 is 2. So you get this, right? You can write it down. Square root 4 times square root 2. You can split them up. Square root 4 is 2. So I'm left with 2 square root 2. 2 square root 2. Or x is minus 2 square root 2. But they say, show that it is this. Why can this not be true? Well, remember, this cannot be true because we're now talking about a practical application with dimensions. And I cannot have a negative dimension. So this is not possible. So the answer is going to be 2 square root 2. They don't say what. Yeah, you could say it's millimeters, right? Because we're talking about millimeters constantly. Okay, so that's A. Let's go to B. And to do that, I would like to have this on the other page as well. Let's see. Copy. And now paste. Great. And we now know, let's write it down here before I'm going to forget that x is 2 square root 2. Calculate the volume of the diamonds in cubic millimeters, round to 1 decimal place. So we have to calculate the volume of the two separate pyramids and add them up, because I don't have a formula for this whole form in one go. But for both pyramids, I have to know the area of the base. So I need the area of this thing. So I don't have a formula to calculate the area of a regular octagon, but I can split it up in different pieces, right? And you can do this in very many ways. I'm going to do it like this. This is one area that I can calculate. Then I have the areas here, which all have the same dimensions, namely 4 times x, 4 times x, 4 times x, and 4 times x. And then I have my triangles. Color is free. Okay, so area 1 is 4 times 4. 16. Yeah, you can write down squared centimeters every time. I'm not going to do that right now. Area 2 is 4 times, right, because I have 4 of them. 4 times 2 square root 2. And now you can either already round off here, or you could say, well, this is going to be 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 4 is 32 square root 2. Or you can already round this, but I'm always a bit careful with rounding off too quickly. So I'm now going to write it like this. 4 times 2 is 8, right? 8 times 4 is 32, the square root 2 is still there. Area 3. Also 4 of them, 4 triangles. With an area of a half times the base, which is x, and x was 2 square root 2, times the other side, because that's the height. There are right angle triangles like this. And let's see, 2 square root 2 times 2 square root 2 gives me 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times a half is 4. I think this is just 16. But I'm going to check myself, because as I said, it's early. I only had 1 coffee this morning. And sometimes I'm just human. Sometimes I am just human. So let's punch it into my calculator. Indeed, that's 8. 8 times a half is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Now the total area of the base, so the area base, is going to be those 3 added, right? So that's 16 plus 16 plus 32 square root 2. So it's 32 plus 32 square root 2. And I think that the book already now rounds this. So you could have rounded here already if you wanted to. Because otherwise you have to write down this every time. But know that if you want to do this exact, right, they say round to 1 decimal in the ends. If you want to do exact, I would keep counting with this. If you're now going to calculate this, and let's see, my calculator says this is around 77 points. And I'm not going to round to 1 decimal place right now, because then I might round off incorrectly. So I'm going to round it for now to 3 decimal points, 255. Squared millimeters, area still. Now, what is the volume of the diamond? It's going to be the volume of this pyramid on top and the pyramid down below. The first one on top is 1 over 3 times the area times the height. The height is given. The top one has a height of 6 plus the area of the volume of the pyramid down below, which has a different height. It's a height of 8. So inside of brackets right here is the first pyramid, this is the second pyramid, and then I add them up. You don't have to use brackets for mathematical correction, but sometimes I use it to make it clear that this is a part of a calculation and this is a part of calculation. And surely I cannot do this mentally. So what I'm going to do is, let's take my answer, times 2 plus, and let's do the other one. So I'm now punching it into my calculator, right? And if I've done this correctly, I've found a volume of approximately 360.5, and they want in cubic millimeters. Let's check if I've done everything correctly. This is given 4 times 4, 4 times x 4 times, and x is 2, square root 2 is 8 square root 2, 32 square root 2, that's correct. So if you have a difficult exercise like this, check it like this, right? So you're sure that you are not making any mistakes. For this is going to be 2 times 8 times 2. Do I make a mistake here? Let's see, 2 square root 2 is 4, 4 times, oh, there's a half here. So it's 2 times, no, it's correct. This is correct as well. And this, I think I've done correctly as well. So this has to be the answer, 360.5 cubic millimeters. Okay, I'm not going to cover C. I think I do want you to try and do something myself. It's more of a physics kind of question, right? They say 1 carat is 200 milligrams. Diamonds weigh 3.51 milligrams per cubic millimeters. You now know how many cubic millimeters we have. So you can now calculate how many carats that has, and you then know what the answer is going to be. Try this for yourself. I think this one is doable if you're going to compare it to B. And if you still find it difficult, you can ask me in class. Good luck.